Hi, this is Doak, and I'm coming to you from the future this week. Um, this episode, which I think is a very good one, features people who are the ones who keep a show on track, who keep it running, and get very little credit for it. And it was interesting that in the opening part of the episode, many of them were telling me things that I was doing wrong and helping me straighten out mistakes I was making. The one mistake they didn't notice, however, was that I did not hit the record button properly at the very beginning. I noticed it about 5 or 6 minutes in, and so we started the recording at that time, and then just continued. We missed what I missed was the introductory pieces for some of the participants, but they eventually cover the same ground anyway. And so I'm just going to pop out of here right now and let you see the episode starting where I finally push the button, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks.
Oftentimes take it for granted. Some do, but most of the time not. But audiences maybe don't realize what magic you created and what simple things sometimes can lead a long way into convincing you into the world that we're creating on stage.
Thank you, Josh. And guess what, Cody? Did you notice the other thing I did wrong? I just started the recording.
Oh no!
I thought I had started it at the very beginning, and I did. I hit the record button. I didn't hit the one that said record to. I thought I did to this computer or the cloud. But we're not going to worry about that because I can put that introductory stuff back in. What I'm going to say to the audience right now is we just had a lovely little introduction of all 6 of our participants, where they shared what they the negatives and positives of being in this role of unsung and indispensable. And believe me, they all are. And we're going to continue with the conversation. You can repeat any of that stuff in the course of it if you want to. I do apologize, but it's a lot better that I saw it now than I went the whole thing and didn't record anything, which I did in the first episode, by the way. Okay, so Bernie, one of the things you said going into this was that you often get asked to do something that you had never expected to have to do when you get into the show. Could you say more about that, and maybe others can also add in their experiences?
About everything that I've done is something new. And so from my very first foray into theater, where I met a director at a work conference, he was directing The Wiz some long time ago. And I got all excited about that. And he said, "Oh, do you sing or dance?" Like, nope. But I'd love to help with something if you think there's something I could do. And lo and behold, he ended up calling me some weeks later. And so my first job was running that gigantic spotlight in the booth, that monstrous thing, because they were doing a lot of their scenography with the lighting. So, the Yellow Brick Road or the Oz. And that was my first extremely scary thing to do.
You could get in big trouble for screwing up on that.
Yeah, and that thing doesn't have like a hairpin trigger aim either. You kind of just wheel it where you hope it lands, push the button, and hope the light is at the right spot. So that was my first thing. But that's also when I discovered that was fun and nerve-wracking and exciting and all that, but I don't want to be stuck in the booth when everybody else is backstage doing whatever they're doing. I'm missing out. I have major FOMO when I'm well,
that's a good story about how you got into this, and I think that would be interesting for everyone too. Others that had you said yes to something and you got into it and you found yourself doing all kinds of things you didn't expect you would have to do. Anybody else want to share that?
Yeah, that happened to me. The first show I did at Over the Ledge with it was Great American Trailer Park Musical. I signed on to be a lighting technician, and by the end of it, I was folding programs and running the box office and miking people and assistant sound designer. And Joe Dixon actually credited me as backstage ninja in the program. Anytime something needed to be done, I was like, all right, well, what do we got to do to get it taken care of? Because it was just, you know, that's how I go into these things. Like I'm part of a team, and my job is to make the show work with whatever I can do to help in that effect. You don't want me on stage singing and dancing, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So I'll stay in the back making everyone else look good, and I'm good with that.
The burden of being highly competent. Anna, I thought I saw you perk up with that question too. Did you have some thoughts?
I was still a student at LCC, and I asked one of the professors if I could start stage managing for the year under me, because I wanted to get into it and start learning. And then I started from there. I think Michael, who had been in Cuckoo's Nest with me, who's since passed away, he was directing Beyond Therapy at Riverwalk, and he had asked me to stage manage that. So I got to work with Diane and that and all of that, and it was really lovely. And from there, I just kind of kept getting asked to do things like props or stage manager, assistant director, costumes, and it all kind of built up onto each other. So it worked out really well. I learned a lot that way, which is very nice.
And a thing to think about in the background, just to make sure we had not just all, you know, puppy dogs and light, but you can get taken advantage of when you're in that position as well.
Yes.
So that's something to think about. Josh, I know you jumped in right away with that question too.
Yeah, I am somebody that actually performs on stage too. So I do like to.
Which a lot of you do. In
the musicals, particularly, I do all the musicals really. I got started in something that I primarily do that's kind of behind the scenes that fits in this category is scenic painting. And I had been in the organization for like 3 or 4 months, had just done a show, and we were doing The Little Mermaid. And I showed up on a Saturday to help paint because I knew that people needed help. Didn't really have a ton of experience in that. But I'm pretty fearless in a lot of things and just kind of willing to jump in and figure it out or watch a YouTube video on how to do it. And there was like a big seashell for Ursula that we were painting, and it was really flat, and it was just kind of blah. And I just didn't feel inspired by it. And I said to the director, Garrett, at the time, and I said, hey, like, couldn't we do something a little bit different with this? Like, you know, shading between, you know, different colors and really give the shell some life. He said, sure, give whatever you want, because right now it looks terrible. And I said, great. So I started with that shell, and he's like, I love that. And so I ended up being looped into painting all of the furniture under the sea on the show. And then he's like, we should do like a 6-color fade on the floor to give the floor tons of dimension. And I was like, yeah, we should. And so I did it, and that was great. And then Garrett was directing Calendar Girls, like the next show, and he said, you know, I really need wood floors on the stage, but we don't have the money to pay for wood floors. So I found this tool in a YouTube video. Could you figure out how to like make the floors look like wood floor? And sure enough, people thought we bought wood floors out of this tool we bought. And, you know, so now since then, basically we never know how to make a faux finish or what exactly we want to do. But Garrett just kind of throws it out there. We've done checkered floors. We've done marble floors. We've done all kinds of, you know, tree finishes and stuff. And, you know, I think for me, it was really just being fearless and jumping in there and figuring it out, and certainly not saying no, because that never works anyways.
Well, it certainly enhances the production in enormous ways that you would do something like that. And I think that's also kind of become a hallmark of the Lebowski Center, is that the scenography is really good, and the set design and all that stuff. So great. That's fantastic. Marcus, I'm thinking about how you slipped into this, and I don't really know how that is, but how about you having to, or getting to do things you didn't expect to get to do, or how you get into this in the first place even?
I don't know if I've ever been asked to do anything that I didn't sign up for. I've been really lucky. I've only worked with a handful of directors, and they've all, you know, known what pieces of the production they needed someone to cover. So I've never had to jump in any unexpected way yet.
Haven't lived.
It'll happen.
I mean, I've done it with other groups, you know, my college troupe and stuff, but not at in any Lansing community theater.
Yeah, Marcus is really competent in a lot of areas, I can tell you. I shouldn't probably reveal that because he'll get asked to do more things. But Diane, I've watched you in you know, just step up to the plate so many times and so many things. What made you get started doing this? And what are some interesting things that you got asked to do that you never expected to get asked to do, if there are any?
Well, first of all, I blame Liz, my daughter.
Oh, okay.
She was the theater kid, and you know, she didn't do it in school, but she did it through All of Us Express, the children's theater. She grew up there, she did everything, and I was the mom that said yes to everything and volunteered and then got a job there and worked there. And so it kind of started way back then. And then I kind of got the whole bug because this is kind of fun. I might want to do that. And then I got involved on the board at Riverwalk and started seeing things. And I did a lot of really behind the scenes. So like not behind the stage, but board wise, I did some grant writing and some event planning and things like that, raised a lot of money for their roof campaign and stuff like that. So, and then I just decided I wanted to not work so hard. I wanted to have more fun. So I think probably the first thing I really did backstage was Young Frankenstein. And that was such a great experience. And I got to know so many people. I mean, the set crew got an award. So, I mean, how can you top that, right? It was fun. And that's where I first met Bernie. That's where I first met Rita. I mean, those are great people to work with. So, I mean, it just kind of built from there. And I love the whole experience.
Great.
For the record,
for those pterodactyls.
You guys put on Young Frankenstein before I moved to Lansing. I'd heard about it when I still lived in the UP. I'd heard about this show that the Lansing theater, one of the theaters in Lansing, had put on called Young Frankenstein. I didn't even know it was a musical. I was like, wow, that sounds really cool. I hope I get to do stuff there one day. Okay.
Having performed a touring show of Pinocchio in the UP, I can say they are very discriminating theater audiences up there.
Yeah, that's a whole
I want to get to the aspect of these things that, I mean, I know that a lot of you suffer a lot of abuse in order to get through doing the things you do. You may not admit it, but I just want people to know, I mean, you really deserve so much respect for what you do. And yet at times I think you can get, I don't know, diminished or not treated with the kind of creative partnership role that you really deserve and play in shows. Anyone want to talk about that at all? Of course not. You're all nice people. You don't want to say nice.
Joke, I can jump in. You know, I think a lot of people don't even realize how many unsung heroes there are in a show backstage. Out in the house that are, you know, running sound or lights. Their weekends and months beforehand to build and create what you see. And it's really a beautiful thing. I think it's just one thing that I think in our theater community, when I say that, I mean at the Lebowski Center in Wasser, because I have not done something in any of the other theaters. I basically came here 5 years ago and I've done every show, every musical since, because I just love the people that I'm around, and we love getting to see people from all around the region come and do something with us and share in that with us. And I think that we're really in a place where people do respect all those unsung heroes all the time. But I think sometimes people don't even realize how much time and energy goes into something before you arrive for your rehearsal call or for your dress rehearsal week, when, you know, even if you're just a stagehand working backstage, but maybe haven't been a part of the creation process, but you come for dress rehearsal week. You know, I think that some people don't realize all the work that goes in advance. And then when you leave after you get your notes done and you're complaining because you can't take your mic off at 10:15 because you got to be out here in 5 minutes, and then you have to sit for 10 more minutes of notes, you know, that there are people that are staying there till 2 or 3 in the morning and then going to work the next morning at 8 or 9 and then coming back to arrive before you get there to make sure that you can run the show tomorrow with everything you need from the notes that we sat in yesterday. And so I know for me, I'm amazed sometimes, even when I am the one that's there till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and then I come back the next day, I'm like, who got the horse? Like, where did the horse come from? And they're like, oh, we found it on Facebook Marketplace, and they brought it in, and then Dan got the truck, and Dirk figured out how to levy it up into the, you know. So it's amazing what can happen in such a short amount of time. And some people just come in and assume those things get done.
Right.
A lot of people don't, which is a beautiful thing. But or they don't even acknowledge. They're just like kind of like, oh yeah, cool, that's great, thanks for the horse. And it's like, you do not even realize I had to swim across Lake Huron to get it and come back. You know, I would say a little bit of
Canada
that.
to get it, right, Cody?
Yeah,
like
I've had to drive
car.
to Canada to get a prop before.
Well, you bring up something. I mean, in a recent episode, I was mentioning how back in the past, rehearsals would sometimes go until the wee hours of the morning, which is not generally done around here anymore in Lansing. Do you still do that in Lebowski? Do you go like to 1 and 2 in the morning for the rehearsal?
We don't rehearse that late. Oh no, we send our actors home at a reasonable time, rest your voice, and come back.
But you stay to do all the hard work, right?
Yeah, some of us that are still in the show, though, they're like, we've got to get that painted for tomorrow morning. And so, you know, that I think comes with being really close with the people you work with, right? Like when we build our production teams, you build people you know and trust and know that will get the job done. And I always say the weekends leading up to the show, you know, you're pulling 14, 15-hour days every Saturday and Sunday for 3 or 4 weekends. And then Monday hits that you're starting to run the show. And I swear Monday through Thursday night and until I wake up Friday morning are like the most miserable nights every week. I'm like, I don't know why I do this. I'm up till the wee hours of the morning. I have to go to work tomorrow and act functional and then be back to run the show because I'm in the show. And I have to find a costume this costume piece that I needed that I don't have time for, let alone try to memorize some lines and some vocal lines. But then when you arrive for Circle on Friday, right before the show, we have a Circle right before every show where the director talks to us. It then hits you why you did it. It was just those 4 days where you're just so mad and so angry, but then it all makes sense in the end.
Yeah, amazing. Bernie, listening to Josh, I mean, the work of creation, I mean, whatever kind of creation you're doing, there's a part of it that is just plain work and difficult and rough. I mean, don't you think?
Yeah, like trying to paint a volleyball red and having that paint never, ever, ever dry.
Ever.
It's still tacky. Trying to create hairspray that won't, you know, kill the actors, that won't wet the actors, that won't. It's like,
yeah.
But the interesting, and I'm referring to hairspray, and I was working on props with Diane. There were quite a few food props in that show. Donuts, you never heard anyone so excited about. I mean, I was taking pictures. Look at my tray of donuts. Oh, they're gorgeous. Don't eat the donuts. Do not. That's a prop. Do not eat the donuts.
Yeah.
I had them quite afraid of me by the end of the show.
Yeah.
But at the end of the show, when they realized that I was actually making waffles in a toaster for a scene so that one of the characters, to be more realistic, could actually reach in a bag and eat something out of the bag. It wasn't until the show ended that they were like, how come every time right before that scene I'd smell waffles? Like, I was making waffles every night. That's why you smell waffles. They never knew. I mean, the actor who ate them knew, but everyone else was just went, what?
I love that.
Wait,
I hate it when the food.
Hairspray?
What's that?
The waffles and hairspray were real?
Yes.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Little known facts. We use that for trivia.
But I hate it when you have to eat on stage and it's crap. I mean, it really should be nice food. I think just to help the acting, you know.
Well, and it doesn't play well if the actor isn't liking what they're eating.
I've even offered to make food myself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Scrambled eggs. They're so good.
I hate sweet tea. That must be why they put it in like the shot glasses when you have on a show, because it's like, oh, you just cringe when you drink it.
Could be. Anna, the work of creation. I wonder what you have to say about that. The difficult stuff that you have to go through to get to opening night, or anything you want to say. I just want to hear you talk.
Yeah, I've, in my experience, I started out as a very young woman doing all of this, and I had a lot of experiences with directors or actors who didn't necessarily take my commitment to the work seriously because of where I was at in my life, and perhaps because of my gender, but luckily I'm me, so I work really hard and generally was able to prove those people wrong. And with that I was, I was able to show and create things, and it was great because then I get asked to make stuff that I never expected to, like a suitcase full of hands. Like that was so much fun. Or for Wild Party, they were like, we need a bed frame that rolls but also locks but also people can dance on. I was like, I don't build stuff, but a bed frame's basically half a wall, so yeah, I'll make that. So that's, there's a lot of opportunities to prove yourself.
Right. And those things are fun. But
Yeah.
we kind of slid by something that you said, which I think I wanna not slide by, which is that you're as a woman, as a young woman, a beautiful young woman, I think that you may get treated as less than in the course of doing some of this work.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
We've talked about this before when we were doing A-Train, where sometimes there's an assumption with when you are a pretty young woman, people may not always think that you are the smartest. I have kind of a high nasal voice too, so that doesn't help with that. And it does take a little bit of extra, like, hey, I'm willing to do all of these things and like take these steps and show you that I work really hard and I am really, really committed to this. And that it can be frustrating, for sure. But it's unfortunately a part of the world we live in right now, and
It is
working to change that. So we're getting there.
So am I, and yet at the same time, I wanted to bring it up because I have to say, and I think the main problem with all these sorts of oppressions and prejudices that we're trying to deal with these days is that we suppress that we even have them. But I must say, I know that as a white male, older guy in the class with Mary's class, I made assumptions about you that were absolutely not true. I mean, they just happened because of the culture I live in and that they came out, and I didn't act on those. But man, I saw at some point, I just saw, wow, this woman got it. She's like,
thank you, so
talented. And I'm so glad you helped me with my play, my very first directing thing.
It was a lot of fun to do.
Thank you. Let me see. Marcus, Diane, Cody, anything that you are thinking about that you'd like to share with us?
I just think that, when it comes to all the hard work, what did you call it?
The hard work of creativity.
Creation, the creation. I think that's part of why I like to do this, and I think I can say everybody else on the screen does too. I think, I'm okay with being asked, we need to make a door slowly creak shut, at the end of the show. How are we going to do that? Well, multiple trips to Home Depot and, tying fishing wire out of the way of actors so they don't trip on it. Really that problem solving and you didn't go into it knowing you were going to be solving special effects or painting something, but you do what you do to get the show done,
I bet all of you like solving problems. I'm just guessing. I think that's probably a character trait that goes with this effort. Thanks, Marcus.
What Josh was talking about earlier with the people staying until 2 or 3 a.m. I didn't consider myself a lighting designer until I stayed at Riverwalk Theater until 2 a.m. finishing a lighting design one night. That's when I was finally like, okay, I think I can call myself a lighting designer. I was here till 2 a.m. I was giggling with madness that I was getting things working the way I wanted them to, and the show went off great. That was actually Diane's show, Piece of My Heart, that I was there, and I was like, all right, I'm a lighting designer now. I think I can do this. So.
Thank you.
I'd like to chime in because of the comment of being unsung, and then talking about the difficulties that you have sometimes or whatever. And I think that myself, there's any show comes with something. There's, you run into a snag or you have tech week. Anything. There's always something. And sometimes there's personality clashes and sometimes there's egos, but you can get past all of those. But I think myself, I don't always see, like Doak, you've referred to a couple of times how you felt that I was not treated fairly or whatever. I don't feel that so much, but I can see it when other people are not treated fairly. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Like, yep. I will totally go, as for lack of another expression, I'll go mama bear on somebody who's being somebody who's mistreating someone else, but I don't necessarily feel it on myself. I guess because I'm so caught up in the moment of just trying to make things work and be right. And so I'm just concentrating on that. But I can spot it when someone else is mistreated, and I can, not retaliate, but, I can act out on that. And, I get angry. But I also think that I did a lot of backstage work. And I learned from that. And I hope that I carried that into when I was the one in charge of the production. I think Piece of My Heart, that's going to go down as probably my favorite forever and ever. I've done other things and I've worked on other things. I've directed other things that I've loved. But I think that I finally got to a point in my life where I it wasn't a perfect show. No show is, I'm sorry. But all the pieces came together the way I wanted them to, mostly. We won't talk about the one thing that didn't, but that's okay. We made it work. But everybody did their job and everybody respected everybody else. There was, I like getting feedback from everybody. I'm that kind of director. I'm not the director that says, I don't want to hear your opinion. I'm not the director that says, no, this is not the way we're doing it. I may not do it the way you suggest, but I want feedback because this is a group effort. This is not my job. This is not me. Yes, I will take full blame if it fails, but if it's a success, it's because of all of us. So I think that's how I feel about it.
Right. The cooperation and the collaboration that has to happen for theater to work is really central to what we're talking about here. And when you think about it, everybody's taking some kind of a risk with their own ego. To say you're going to direct a show, which I've only done once, is terrifying. And because of that, your ego can pop in and say, well, I'm going to make a strong decision here.
Yeah.
And in the course of it, you might really not treat someone the way you should. That's horribly regrettable. But all of us have egos, and actors, of course, certainly will respond to maybe some input or feedback or helpful stuff that you say in a negative way because they think you don't have a role in that or something. But that happens all over the place. And theater is the place, in my life, theater is the place where that can happen and you can produce something just so lovely because love is at the center of it, even though you got all this nasty stuff that kind of swirls around it.
Yeah.
Any responses to that?
Yeah, I would jump in real quick because I completely agree, Diane. And I think that this probably goes for all of us in that our motivations to do this work is not centered around the affirmation of somebody else necessarily. It's because we're passionate about the collaboration that we're going to have with the other creatives on the stage, backstage, and leading up to the show. And I think what's really special is that sometimes what I think the difference between us and just somebody that helps or as part of the production team is we recognize the value of all of the people that are participating. So whether you come and paint for one day, I want to make sure you know how much I appreciate that you came and helped because it helps me participate in other things that I can focus on, and that the role that every individual person plays is incredible. And so some people need the affirmation. I always remember that. Like other people need the love, they need the affirmation, and that isn't a bad thing. But that just means that we have to probably the unsung here, have to take it upon us to make sure that other people feel appreciated, and we enjoy having you around.
Yeah.
And I would say, you know, there's two of my really close friends here at the theater that are also very unsung and indispensable, and it's unfortunate we couldn't just be like a little tripod here. But my friends Taylor and Frankie have become incredible friends beyond what we had even in shows, but because of what we did in creating together and painting and being there until 2, 3, 4 at night and having to get a Little Caesars pizza right before they closed and then a McDonald's Coke at 2 o'clock in order to keep going. And so by being able to show your appreciation for people like that and being able to show mutually at the same time why you enjoy spending time with each other, I think keeps people around and keeps people engaged.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Thank you. Others?
Yeah, it's a bond, like when you work with people like to this extent and you get to know people. There's no other way to explain it.
Yeah.
Like my theater friends are ranked in a whole different echelon than regular friends because we've just been through so many weird different. Diane and I yelled at each other once. It doesn't even affect us anymore because we're like, it was tech week, you know, it happens. You know, I've got so many friends that's happened with. It's just, you know, we just, you know, it's going to happen and you just roll with it and deal with it. And I think in a way it makes a better bond of friendship and almost family than, you know, the real thing in my situation, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Others? You see?
Sorry,
It truly
it's
is a
hard to
family.
follow.
I'd say it truly is a family. And for us, my colleagues that I get to work with, whenever we build a show are my best friends. And then the other people that we work with are either family or additionally our best friends. And we do everything together because we love it. And we absolutely have that moments where you want to rip the other one's hair out or you do yell at each other. But then we all know that we're coming back tomorrow because we have this common goal and we're only mad because we're trying to work out the creative juices to make it happen.
Right.
And,
and I really want anybody that watches this, I hope can get some help in breaking through that feeling that it's a club that you can't get into, because what you're saying is so true. And you may hit some bumps, you know, some sort of in crowd kind of things that happen. But wouldn't you all say, I mean, that it is so rewarding to collaborate with folks on making something nice and intriguing and special for people?
I think that it's important, like Josh said and others have said, to make others feel comfortable with what they're doing and appreciate it. I think that that's very important. And I think, if I may, Cody, I would like to use you as an example. His first experience at Riverwalk was not his best. He really was ready to just be done. I can't believe I did this, the whole thing. And Liz and I and some others, you know, we convinced him, please don't let this be your judge of how things are, because this was an exception. There's good things and there's bad things, and sometimes they work. Please come back. You have talent. You've got the abilities. Please come back and give it a try. And thank God he did, because now he's still here. But I mean, that happens. And I hope that when that happens, there are people around to say, hey, you know, try it again. Please do it differently, do it with different people, whatever, but do it again, try it again, because it is a community and we want you here. And I hope that that is, you know, the case more often than not. I can't say that it is. It is when I'm there, but
I have a number of friends who've also had that experience, and I try to do the same thing you do. I said that was just one experience, and it's unfortunate that it happened that way, but sometimes it just takes a few tries to get to that relationship where you really discover how nice it can be. I know one person who was a colleague who worked on a play that was about Anne Frank. It was not the Diary of Anne Frank, but it had that material kind of in the background of it. And she was Jewish, and she worked on the play, I think in costumes or something, and there weren't many Jewish people in the room, and she could see, you know, there were some things she knew that would be helpful for people to know, but she could not get heard, and it hurt her. I mean, she felt bad that she couldn't get in. It's like, I'm sorry that happened. It's you know,
it's too bad that someone didn't recognize that they had an opportunity to learn.
Yeah. And who knows? I wasn't there. I was just hearing it secondhand, so I'm not sure.
Joe, you said something that was interesting. You know, I think a lot of people see theaters sometimes as cliquey or hard to come into. And really that stems from the fact that we spend so much time with each other to build these shows. And so I think that's where it takes people like us to ensure that we know people, that there's an opportunity to come in, to participate, to invite them to the table, because so often, you know, I'm at the theater more than I'm at my 40-hour-a-week job. And then oftentimes I'm doing both at the same time on text message at 8 o'clock at night to handle something for both. But we're there so much that you know everything about some of these integral people that are part of it. And so it takes all of us to stop for a moment and remember that we need to invite people to the table, you know, seek new people that have creative talents that might also have time to donate to us, but then also recognize if you're looking to get involved in an organization, we're moving at 100 miles an hour and we need somebody that can really commit to us. 1 hour to pick up a paintbrush is not always helpful. It's what I would always say. You have to be able to provide a little bit more to us in order to really make a mark. And so it's kind of a two-way street in that regard, but I think it's ensuring that we're inviting people to the table to participate. I
mean, the actors at Strike who go out and maybe undo one brad or something and then leave.
I put all my stuff in the car. Can I go? You know, no. There's thousands of costumes in this show.
Bernie, you were all ready to say something. I could see it. So what was that about?
I was going to say that one of the interesting things that I find about, especially being in some of the musical big productions, is just being with all these different generations of people. I have all these young friends, which is really weird.
I love that.
It's strange because, you know, when you're doing the show and everyone's pretty equal and you're talking and you're hanging out and you're going out and then you find out, what, you're only 23? I mean, what, that's my daughter's age. Okay, this is kind of weird, but
yeah, that's so true. And as
but
I've gotten
it's really cool to have friends of all different generations. You hear their points of view that are different than yours.
And they don't mind that you don't understand their language. I mean, it's just really great.
At one time backstage at Piece of My Heart, which had a variety of aged characters, but the young man in the show, Tyler, for some reason we were talking about things and stuff and traveling, and we mentioned triptychs from AAA, and he's saying, what is that? And we're explaining about what that is and how fun it was to go from page to page and look at the map, and he's like, what map? So, it was just fun. No one was putting anyone down. We were just enjoying the comedy of different life experiences.
I haven't had the exact best family history like with blood family in my life, but I often joke about how many different theater moms I have and like how they're all ready to go to bat for me no matter what it is, anytime. Like Diane's one of them. Like, just, I need a theater mom. All right, you're in, go. You know, it's a great feeling, especially for someone with a background like mine.
Anna, as one of the younger folk, do you have any thoughts about that?
I do. I was thinking about how nice it is to also have friends of other generations, because I have people like Diane or Mary Jo who are women that I look up to greatly and I really admire them. And then also, you know, Liz and I are not that far apart, but I absolutely get to look up to her, and I've learned so much from her working at All of Us Express previously. And then working at LCC with younger actors who are coming just out of high school and getting to work with them and see them grow over the 2 years of their time in the studio program, and then getting to see people like Tyler go out and do community shows. That means a lot, because that means like, oh, good, you learned something and you stuck with it and you're able to see your own growth and you know that you're capable of this. And it's really nice to get to be a part of that journey.
Yeah.
And like before I left for my apprenticeship, I got a bunch of notes from old students being like, hey, we're really proud of you, which it feels very, very nice. And then they get to go out and meet all the wonderful people of different generations and grow from that. And hopefully the cycle carries on.
Yeah, it's life changing. It really is. I'm gonna move to the exit question because we are about at that time, which I will ask almost all of you to turn off your cameras and think about this question. It's the one I gave you ahead of time, so I'm not going to pull a fast one on you. Are some people just naturally suited to play the unsung and indispensable role we've talked about tonight, or is it a learned capacity? That's one question. And how are you personally fulfilled by that role? I think you've all answered that one, but if you want to say any more about that, that's cool too. So if you'll just take a couple minutes off screen, Josh, if you'd stay on, I want to talk to you about.
I don't get time to think about my question, Doug.
Nope, you don't. You don't. No, I have utter faith in you, even though I don't know you that well. I can tell just from this you'll be just fine. Josh, you work at the Lebowski Center primarily, and I wanted to highlight them tonight to just share what's coming up with them. And since I couldn't really, I really tried too late to get the information I needed. So since I had you on, I thought, could you just share with us what's coming up at Lebowski this week?
Absolutely, Doak. So at the Lebowski Center, this past fall, we did an outdoor socially distanced event, which we actually put together really quickly after an event that was, we were kind of inspired by that we saw in a different community, to bring people together, less than 100 people sitting at seats to enjoy theater outdoors. We sanitized, cast members were social distanced. Our organization has been looking at our COVID response plan. And so was really excited that we were able to do that. It was very successful. And people just wanted to come back and share in those theater experiences again. We felt kind of inspired by that. And every year we have this holiday tradition called Holiday at Lebowski. And from that experience in the fall, early fall, we felt like we could do something like that again in December. And so our production team worked to build this concept, and we were really excited. We announced it. People were once again excited to come and share in those experiences in a safe, socially distanced way. But our organization really felt, as we were seeing the COVID cases continue to increase in our community, that we needed to support our healthcare workers. We needed to support our community and stop the spread. And so we unfortunately did cancel that event, really thanks to a lot of people that ended up, donating their tickets back to support our organization. Our theater burnt down 7 years ago, and the expense to continue to keep our building open while also not being able to have programs inside every month is a large expense, as well as supporting our 2 staff members, full-time staff members. So, while we are not having the Holiday at Lebowski, our annual holiday tradition, we are excited about, we have Giving Tuesday that is going to be coming up. We have some great sponsors that are matching that, and our community is coming together. We hope to have a match grant for that, or we'll have a match grant. We're hoping to raise money to match that. So we're really excited about that. As we look into next spring, our production team is looking at what might exist. I think we all feel that we saw how summer and fall outdoor events worked. And so as we continue to navigate the pandemic, I think we're going to look at what that might look like outdoors and what might exist. So at this point, we don't have anything to announce, but certainly that's where we're at. We're along, we stand with all of our other fellow theaters that are unfortunately closed at this time. But, obviously from us, we just encourage people to wear a mask. We can't wait to be open again and sharing those experiences.
And updates could be found at your webpage.
LebowskiCenter.com.
Okay. Or just Google it.
I should know that.
If you Google it,
Lebowski Center.
Lebowski Center, you'll find it.
Yep.
Thank you. I just want to say I've only performed once there. I've seen several shows. Lebowski Center. It's a wonderful theater to both see a play in and to be. I mean, the backstage is incredible.
Well, we loved having you in the show, and we hope that you'll come back again soon.
Oh, I would love to. I was hesitant to because I was such a pain with being late for rehearsals so many nights.
That's okay. Whoever starts on time.
Well, I'm not good with directions, and I would get off and miss the highway exit I was supposed to get off. And all that. Anyway, it's a wonderful experience, and I hope everybody is able to do that. If they wanted to give you money, anyone, how would they do that?
Yeah, they can go to LebowskiCenter.com. We have a donate button on our page to show support. We also have membership, and so through your membership, there's some great perks. depending on the level of membership. They get pre-sale access to our shows. Depending on what level you give, there are some free comp tickets that come throughout the year that obviously be deducted from the tax exempt portion. But certainly any gift, no gift is too small. We also have a really cool opportunity for people to give $9.99 a month. We all give to, you know, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, all of the services that we get every month. But support your local theaters with our monthly sustaining gift. You can start at $9.99 a month, and you get all the same benefits as a membership through that.
Great. Thanks for being such a great spokesperson for your theater too.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it.
Everybody else, can you come back on? I will say that, you know, one way to support your theater is to join my trivia tournament that's coming up, which I just put online today as an event. And if you win, you get a $250 donation for the theater of your choice. So
Mary Maurer is one of your champions, I think, Doak, and she just invited me tonight. So I'm sure all the Wassos.
Mary, there are 5 seats that I'm will not be judged by the qualifying test score. Mary's probably going to get one of those because she's so much fun with trivia. Okay, everybody. So do you have a chance to think about? We won't make Cody go first because he was talking. Are some people naturally suited for this role, and or is it a learned capacity? And anything else you want to share? Who'd like to go first?
You know, I think some people are, because when I first started doing theater, it was in high school, and I was doing I was doing acting and stuff, and I thought that was it. That's what I wanted to do. And it wasn't until I moved down here to Lansing and started doing like tech stuff with an actual theater that actually had technology and not just, you know, Frankensteinian blade switches they were throwing backstage to make lights come up. Then I was like, you know, I kind of like doing this tech stuff a lot more. You know, tech has always been part of my background. It's what my career is in, and it's nice to be able to lend that expertise to, you know, being part of a whole, you know, with the actors and the directors and everyone else that for at least a brief little while helps people, keeps them entertained and pulls them out of the reality that we're living in, which right now is definitely not the best.
Yeah.
And, you know, I honestly, if the right role came along, I'd probably audition for a live part again. But honestly, I really like being backstage. I like being up in the booth. I like putting the lights on people to make them look good and make the show look great. And I think that's really my calling when it comes to community theater. So, you know, if you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have said no, but now I say yes. Some people are predisposed towards being the unsung and indispensable for sure.
Well, thank you, Cody. We like you being there, but you're welcome on stage too, of course. Anybody else want to go next? Yeah, Bernie.
For me, for part 2 of that question about what's fulfilling, and I think it's also part of the personality of the backstage unsung person, is you have to really enjoy being part of the team. You know, you don't have to be the quarterback, just being part of the team, because I can't tell you how many times backstage, being part of the running crew, looking at the little monitor when the actors are doing their curtain call and taking their bow, and if they get a standing ovation, I am, and those around me are just as thrilled, couldn't be any more thrilled as if we were on the other side of the curtain and the people were seeing us. We are so excited that we had a great show. It's like, yes!
Yeah.
And so if you can get that excited about other people getting the accolades, but knowing that you did what you did to make that happen, then you'd be great for being unsung, because you're not unsung. The people know that you put clothes on them, put lights on them, gave them props they could eat if they needed to eat them, whatever it is they did. Somebody knows you did it. And if you don't care who knows, then this is the place for you.
Thank you, Bernie. Beautifully said.
I'll go. So I think that there are some personality traits that are predisposed for being backstage, maybe. you know, somebody who likes making lists or likes being organized or even just likes to help out, you know, like, let me do that so that you can go do something more important. Those kinds of things are all traits that I think make for good people backstage. But I think that you can also learn those things just by being, like Bernie said, part of the team. I think that those can absolutely be learned if you have the desire to. I think that Bernie talked about, I lost my train of thought. No, she said being part of the team and being proud of what others do and letting them get the accolades. Everybody's getting those accolades. And I think that the best thing that really any director can do to make sure he has a successful show is to make sure he's got the people in place to do that stuff that he's not going to do or she's not going to do.
Yeah.
I could not have done any of my directorial stuff if I hadn't had Bernie next to me, or we know each other, and she knows knew what I needed and just did it. And I didn't have to worry about it because I knew she would take charge. And so you need that kind of person that just can make those lists and know what has to happen. And it gets done.
Thanks, Diane, for everything.
I think I kind of agree with Diane. I think it's kind of both. I think you may have a natural suitability towards this kind of work, but I think if you I think the main thing is to care deeply about things. And it's about, whether it's about caring deeply that the paint looks right, or caring deeply that the lights look right, or caring deeply that your actors are, can succeed. And I think, but I think that care is something that can be learned, even if you don't have it right off the bat. So I think that's the main thing.
I think that's wonderful. That's absolutely true.
That's beautiful right there.
Mm-hmm. Good job.
Josh or Anna?
Yeah, I both. I'm someone who's always been very organized in my life, and generally likes to kind of lead stuff, and also is very good at seeing a problem, anticipating a problem, and fixing it. But I've seen people who are mainly actors take on leadership roles backstage and do just phenomenal work with that. And it's something that's absolutely learned for them, but it's not by any means out of reach. So
thank you, Anna. Josh, last word.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think that with everything in the theater, there's a role that everybody can play. From anything that's front of house, having a shining face to get people in the right mood to come see our show, to being backstage, to in the booth, to being there weeks in advance, or in the show. I think that anybody can fit the needs that we need to build a show like that. And if somebody really felt they wanted to be indispensable, I think having a can-do positive attitude is the trick. And being able to just say, yes, I'll figure it out. And like you said, being a problem solver to figure it out is where that comes into play, and I guess to relate to that, when you answer the next question about what makes you most proud, I guess for me, it's when you step out. I see the actors from day one, from when we do the read or we have our first vocal rehearsal to the first blocking with a chair that's supposed to be a tree and all kinds of weird stuff. To then being able to see at the week of dress rehearsal and see all the little details of all of the indispensable people that cared about the belt that one of the characters is playing and how it's bedazzled with jewels, or to the care that somebody had in adding some shadowing to the stair rail so it doesn't look brand new, freshly painted in a 1800s house, to the lights that are much more than just putting up some lights and turning them on and off in a couple different colors, but adding different textures and different moods that you can create. Those are the people that are indispensable, because those are the details that matter. And those are oftentimes, I think, the details that I talked about in the beginning that people they take for granted. They don't realize when they see them how valuable that is. My parents know I love to set paint. And after every show, I'm like, oh, did you see that floor? It was like marble. And they're like, oh, yeah, it was nice. Fine. I only did like 20 hours on that floor, but thank you so much. and that's fine. But you know, it's those details that we can appreciate, those like theater loving people that they take for granted. They're like, well, yeah, it was a marble floor. What do you mean? It's like, well, I'm glad you thought that. It was that simple for you. It's a
I
beautiful
read
thing
a
that we
lighting
can
design
step back
book
and appreciate.
once that if the audience walks away from your show going, well, the lights were really good, you did your job too well, or the
That's
actors
true.
didn't do their
That's
job well enough.
No, no,
It's a very subtle line we have to tread.
So many of the jobs support one another too. So if you're a director, that's going to make you a better actor. If you've acted and now you're going into costumes, well, now you know how you want to feel and move on stage. You're going to be able to do that for others.
right.
If you're a stage manager who used to be an actor, you're going to know the compassion and the patience that the actors need to do their jobs. And those are all really important. So much like, you know, everyone should work in food service once in their life. Everyone should be a stage manager once in their life and really get to know exactly everything that is happening, especially in community theater where it's not, you are not just a stage manager.
Yeah.
You're also, you might be hemming skirts in the booth while also like making someone tea because they have a sore throat or whatever it may be, you know? So
Yeah.
everything serves each other in the theater.
That's
It is
right.
always a collaborative work. And if there is someone who is not treating it as such, then that's only their issue, you know?
Right. This has been great. Thanks for the clap there, Mark. You have not only talked about, you know, the subject matter here, but I think really pointed in on what the joy and the fun and the love of theater is about, and why people, I think, would all benefit from trying to do the work of getting into it and playing a role in this fantastic art and hobby that we all participate in. So I really thank you for this wonderful conversation, and hope you all have a wonderful holiday. Let's all wave goodbye to the audience, and thank you for watching, if you're watching this, whenever you're watching this. But we will see you next time.